Tends to be more of a low-income population who we see in our shelter, and people who have experienced other struggles in their life. No, but sometimes volunteers get the impression that people who have domestic violence in their lives are always poor, or they're always from, like a minority population. But that's definitely not the case. It's more that those who have the resources to deal with the problem on their own will probably do so. We're very diverse ethnically and racially and demographically. Our shelter and our residential programs are for women and their children. It can be male or female. But some of our other services are open to men as well, like our crisis line, our 24-hour line that people can call, or our counseling services, our legal services. We have men who want to file a restraining order against a partner or somebody in their life who's been abusive, and they can certainly do that. Basically anything else that we offer, aside from a place to stay, is open to men and women. Because we definitely recognize that men and women both can be victims of violence, whether it's physical or verbal or emotional or sexual. It can happen to males and to females. We're just starting to recognize, society as a whole is just starting to recognize that violence can happen to men too. So the services haven't quite caught up yet. So one of Tubman's long-term goals is to have shelter for men too. That can vary, can run the whole gamut. Often people might think first that it would be a husband or a boyfriend, and it can be. It certainly is a good portion of the time. Sometimes it might be another family member. It might be a parent. It might be a sibling. It might be, somebody who lives in the same apartment building who's stalking the victim, or who's, maybe they went on one date and then that person has turned to unhealthy methods of trying to get their attention. And many people come to us fleeing a same-sex relationship. What happens is people usually call first, and we will, if we have space, we will accept them. If we don't currently have space, we're connected with all of the other domestic violence programs in the state, and we have a computer system where we can look online and see where there is space, and we can refer someone anywhere else. So we'll just transfer their call directly, so that someone in the state of Minnesota only has to make one phone call. Once we do accept someone, we help them get here from wherever they are. Sometimes it's, I don't have a car, how am I going to get there? I have 3 kids, I have all this stuff that I need to bring, so we'll call a cab and we'll pay for the cab for them to get here. Once they get here, we help them get settled in their room. We'll do what we call an intake, which isn't us wanting to get a whole lot of information. It's just a chance for us to sit down with the client and talk about what is the situation that's brought you here, what's important information that we need to know. Then one of the first things that we do is we do a goal plan. So we sit down and say, let's write out on paper what are the things that you want to accomplish while you're here. And they get to decide what those things are. So for some people it might be getting a restraining order if they're worried that when they're at their job or when they're picking up their kids from school, that person might hassle them or cause some trouble for them. So that might be one goal that they have. Finding a job might be a goal that they have. Getting their kids enrolled in school if they decide that they want to change the school that the kids are going to for safety. Really whatever they want to work on. And then usually almost 100% of the time finding housing would be a goal, finding another place to live. They tell us what their goals are. We offer them support to help them work on those goals or connect with other resources to help them. Usually it's done on a case-by-case basis, but usually 30 days they would be given when they come in. After 30 days gets close, we'll talk to them. If they need another 30 days, often we can grant them an extension, thank you. It just depends on what barriers they have. Somebody who doesn't have an ID is going to have a harder time finding housing because you usually need some kind of ID to get housing, so they might need a little bit longer in that case. Or someone who maybe, who has a language barrier. If they don't speak English well, that could be a barrier, and so they might need a little bit more time. They want to make sure that you always text them to tell them where you are. they're not really respectful when you set boundaries for yourself. Like, okay, I want to spend this time with my friends, and they, no, I want to be with you. You don't want to hang out with your friends. Another big sign is isolation. If somebody stops hanging out with their friends, they start dating somebody, and they no longer really have time for their friends. Being controlling, kind of wanting to tell their partner how to act or what to wear or who to talk to. Someone who's quick to get jealous. And not just get jealous, but get jealous and use that as an excuse to have controlling behaviors or unhealthy behaviors. It's the kind of thing that takes a toll on someone's kind of sense of self-worth. They feel like they're less of a person because that partner might be telling them that they're worthless or just making them feel like they're worthless by kind of subtly finding ways to get to them, to kind of manipulate them or play mind games with them. These are all forms of emotional abuse. And that's usually what's a bigger warning sign for some of the like more dangerous violence to come later on. We do have some teenagers come, and we definitely have programming for teens who have experienced relationship violence. Usually those who stay in our shelter are 18 and over, but we have had 17-year-olds. Often, as far as shelter, we will refer youth to another shelter that's specific for teens, and it might just be kind of a better environment for them. We also have a program that's called YAYA, which stands for Youth and Young Adults. And so when a teenager or a young adult has experienced dating violence, they can be referred to this program and get some in-home support, some kind of one-on-one advocacy around meeting their goals, and also some legal assistance. Probably the biggest one is that it only happens to women, that women are the victims of domestic violence. And although the clients you'll see in our shelter are all women, we have men call our crisis line. We have men come in for counseling, come in for orders of protection or restraining orders. And on the flip side of that, often a woman can use violence against her boyfriend, or violence can be more used mutually by both partners in a relationship. So women are not only victims, men are not only perpetrators. That's one of the big stereotypes. Another is that it's something that happens to lower income people, or it's something that happens to inner city people. You know, it doesn't happen out in the country where I live. But what we find is that it really happens everywhere, and it happens in every community. It happens in all different economic levels. People with a lot of money, people who are lower income, everyone in between. It happens to people of all races and of all ethnic backgrounds and of all different demographic groups. And some groups might be more likely to come forward about it or to feel comfortable talking about it. In communities where it's kind of a secret, it's not really talked about, it's a little bit harder for someone to reach out and ask for help because they haven't really heard of it before. They might think they're the only one who it's happening to.
Yeah.
But those are some of the stereotypes that I hear. Probably one of the easiest ways would be to call our 24-hour phone line. So that's the way to get connected to our shelter. We also have a website, Tubman.org, and there's lots of information on there about how to get help and about what the signs are to look out for.